Morning, Ben. Good morning, Michaela.
Good morning, Jeff.
Oops. Can't do that. So I don't know how many people are going to be on this morning or how that's going to work, but I'm trying something a little bit new here this morning. I'm trying to go live. I think I'm live right now on YouTube. So it's a bahs.ca/live stream. So you have me here via Zoom if from one angle, just from a little iPad. And on YouTube, you can actually see what I'm writing, and I'll be recording it as well. And you can kind of see everything from there. The other links for today, I think you have all the sheets that we're doing today, because we're just going to be doing a little bit of review today on Trig. But in case you don't, or in case you don't have them available or filled out or something, today's January 11th, and there's 3 links for today: January 11.1, point 2, and point 3. Now, point 2 is the live stream. Okay, so that's the video of today. And point 3 is chemistry. So point 1 is 3 or 4 or 5 pages of everything. So basically this whole stack here. Now, there's a lot of review here, but I'm going to be going through this stack, doing example questions, just as kind of review. So some of you may not need this. Some of you might just need this for kind of a refresher, because it's been a long time since we've done any math. But those are the links that we'll be using here today. Before we get started, welcome to 2022. If I haven't already seen you, so Michaela, I've seen Ben and Jordan, and Grace. Good morning, Grace. Here's the calendar for January 2022. We are right here, of course, on the 11th, and I'll zoom in a little bit. You may not be able to see that unless you actually go. I don't know how you're going to do that. So there's not much class participation here, so you're welcome to stay on Zoom. But if you want to follow along on the live stream, it's that link right there. So again, I don't know how this is going to work. If you got two screens on your thing, but I know Grace is on her iPhone, so I don't know how that's going to work. But it is going to be recorded. So just as I'll do it this way. This is the way I did it yesterday. Kind of the calendar for January. We're right here on the 11th. But we've got basically today, and we've got 2 days this week, 2 days next week, and then we have our final exam on the following Tuesday. So that'll be on the 25th. So that doesn't give us much time to do the review. But next week, in person, we're going to make full use of our time, so as much as we can. Again, I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll do our best. So today we're going to be reviewing Trig. Next class we'll be reviewing a few other things, not with Trig, but with, I think we need to go over quadratics again, and some algebra. And so we'll basically use those today and Thursday there to get a few of those things done. And then next week when we're back in person, as far as I know, that's the way it stands, then we'll be doing some more review, and I'll give you a mock exam, some sample questions there, and we'll go over some review material before our final exam on Tuesday. If you don't have an exam, you don't have any other classes, then Monday's off. Of course, Monday's always off for for math. But then Tuesday is the exam, and then the rest of the week will be off there as well until second semester. If you're taking courses second semester, we'll arrange some schedules and some interview times again next week for semester 2. Okay. So again, I don't know how I'm going to show you via Zoom. So you can, if you're on a phone or something, you can probably go to YouTube and see everything live there, and then just have this thing on mute and in the background. I think that might work. But what I'm going to be doing is going over Trig right from the beginning to end. I'll be talking here probably for about an hour, hour and a bit. There's not much participation from you because it's just the way it is. But I'm going to be going over this little bundle here, January 11.1, which consists of the flow chart and then a number of these fun worksheets. So I know some of you, I think like Jordan, Michaela, that you've done a majority of these things. But again, this is kind of review here. The schedule got all messed up there with being delayed and now with being online. So we'll do our best. I'm just going to go make sure that I'm recording properly and that I'm streaming properly, and then I'll be back. Then I'm going to start going through this. If there's any questions, you can let me know. Apparently, if we're live streaming, then there's comments on the side. It's just kind of like one of those Discord feeds or something else. You can have a little chat on the side, but you can also talk to me here by Zoom and go from there. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to make sure that we're recording properly so I don't look like a fool last night. It says it's recording. It's streaming. Watching now. Okay. Okay, so we're recording too, just in case. Okay, I think we're good. So, again, that link does work, and so you can see from a different angle what's going on, and you can mute this side and then go to that side. You should be able to hear me talking through the YouTube channel, and then you can fast forward me all the blurbs that you don't need, or rewind if you need to go over something again. So here we go. Just gonna grab some paper. All right, here we go. So we have been talking about trigonometry, okay, and we gave you an introduction on trigonometry. So we, as a kind of a summary, we already know that trigonometry involves triangles, okay? And so labeling a triangle, there's a nice triangle, 3 sides. And we talked about right angle triangles, and we talked about triangles that are not right angles. So this is 90 degrees. That's what a right angle triangle refers to as. Doesn't matter if it's a right angle triangle or not. All triangles add to 180 degrees on the inside. So if we can find this angle and this angle, 90 plus those 2 angles will always equal to 180 degrees. Same thing for this. There won't be any 90-degree angles, but you will always have a total of 180 degrees. And so this is where this thing comes into play. Okay, so the trigonometry flowchart, you're allowed to have this on your quizzes and your tests. Is it a right angle triangle? Then you use the left. Or is it a non-right angle triangle? Then you use the right-hand side. And so we're going to be going over an example of each. Essentially, you have to know if you have a triangle are you looking for an angle or are you looking for a side? And you can do it a couple different ways with a right angle triangle and a couple different ways with a non-right angle triangle. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do here is we have to know how to label a triangle. So the interior angles all add up to 180 degrees, that's fine, but the corners are called the vertices, or vertex, okay, just like in the quadratics, it means point. So there's a point there. They're symbolized by capital letters. There's a B, and they could be any letters. This could be a Z. You can choose the letter. We tend to use ABC just because. But what I want to highlight is the fact that the corners are capital letters, and then the opposite side. So if this is capital letter B for a corner, this is little letter B. If this is capital letter Z, this is little letter Z. Capital letter A, little letter A. Okay. What I'm going to tell you just as a hint is if you're looking for something in particular, let's solve for C. And that'll help later on, not necessarily with the right angle triangles, but it will help with the other right angle triangle, the non-right angle triangles. So if you're looking for this particular side, then we're going to relabel our triangles ABCs, and this is going to be the C side. Okay, so then this would be capital C corner, this would be C side, the A and the B or the C and the D or whatever, doesn't really matter, but we're going to use ABCs, and so that will be how you label that. Okay, that will become important a little bit later on. Okay, so let's go through an example here on the, okay, is this a right angle triangle? We're going to start with right angle triangles. This is some examples, okay. Do you have or need any angles? Well, we need a question first. So let's go to this particular worksheet here. It's in your bundle. And we've done this one. And we will do question 3 here since it doesn't look like it's done. Okay? And so this is the question here. And it says find the measure of the angle that marked. So they're looking for angle D. Okay? So they could actually have said angle D. Okay? But you can see that in the corner here, this is what you have to do. So when it comes to finding angles, okay, first of all, is this a right angle triangle? And the answer is yes. So on the side, do you have or do you need any angles? Well, they're looking for this particular angle. So the answer is yes. So we're going to be using sine, cosine, and tan, or SOHCAHTOA. Okay, now SOHCAHTOA is over here. I'm going to just write it down over here. I'm going to copy the question so that we can have something to talk about here. I'm going to copy the question here. Not an artist. This is 34, this is 80, and this is my x, or my unknown. Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Now, I'm also going to write down SOHCAHTOA. Now, normally we'd write down ABC in this, but when it comes down to trig and SOHCAHTOA, this particular case, we have to figure out the sine, cosine, tan. And we always have to have a starting point, which is the corner that you're looking for, the angle that you're looking for, or the angle that you're given. And you always label the slanty side. The slanty side is always the one opposite the right angle triangle. So this is the 90 degrees. This is the hypotenuse, which is also the C side. Okay, so the hypotenuse of the C side, that's where you always start. Over here is the C because we were looking for the angle. Okay, on this side here we just label them ABC, but the slanty side would be the hypotenuse. Now the hypotenuse, there's 3 sides. There's a hypotenuse, there's the opposite side, and there's the adjacent side. Adjacent means next to, so next to the red dot, that would be the A side. And the opposite to the dot, or to your angle, would be over here, that would be your opposite side. So they stand for adjacent, ADJ, OPP for opposite, and hypotenuse means slanty, slanty side. So this is easy, there's the other side. Okay, however you want to do that. Hypotenuse, you label first, adjacent, next to, opposite. There we are. Now if you notice, we have 3 red letters and 2 blue numbers, and the H doesn't have a number. So A has a number 80 and O has a number 34. H doesn't have a number. So we're not going to use any formulas with H because we don't have enough information. So we need a formula that has O and A in it. And the OA formula, this is the OH formula, this is the AH formula, and this is the OA formula. So we're going to use the OA formula. Okay? Now it's written a little bit differently on your worksheet here, and you need a little magnifying glass to blow that up. But we are looking at this, the OA, the opposite adjacent formula. Okay? And that's the tan formula. So all we do is we copy this formula and we write it down here. I'm going to write it off to the side. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, copy it off. Tan of the angle, which is x, I don't know what that angle is, divided by 1 is equal to the O. It's always O on top over A on top over H, or O on top over H. So O's first, so it'll be 34 on top, and 80 on the bottom, 80 on the bottom. And what we have here now is a simple ratio that we can figure out on the calculator. So there's my little window frame. Okay, which one doesn't belong? It's this one up here, and so there's my L, 1, 2, 3 numbers all lined up together, and now I need my calculator. Okay, you always start in the corner, so you can either start with a 1 or with a 34. I'm going to start with a 34, and you divide the multiply. It's A, B, C, D for divide. It's in alphabetical order. Divide 34 divided by 80 times by 1. So 34 divided by 80 times by 1. Thing is, that's not going to give us the right answer. Why are we doing it? Well, we're almost there. 34 divided by 80 times by 1 is 0.425. Now, what we just figured out was this whole square. So 0.425, that's equal to tan of x. Okay? But I don't want tan of x. I want x. So I just want the angle, x. I don't want the tan of x, so I have to get rid of the tan. How do you get rid of the tan? You do the opposite of tan. You untan. Okay? So it's like wintertime. That's untanning for us white boys. Okay, so 0.425. So what I do is I go second function tan, and I put 0.425. And the degrees, so the actual x by itself is 23.02 degrees. And that's it. So when you solve, when you're looking for an angle, okay, and this applies, doesn't matter where, if you're looking for an angle, you're going to have to go second function that angle to get the angle out. Okay? If you are looking for a side, then when you do this, you'll just get the answer directly. You don't have to second function it. So the only time you have to second function sine or second function cosine or second function tan is when you're looking for the angle and you need to get the angle back out. Good morning, Ron. That's how you get an angle out of that. So essentially what we did here in the flow diagram then is we went from here, we figured out it's right angle triangle, we needed to do SOHCAHTOA. Now, which one you use depends on which side the numbers are on. And so you have to identify, is the OA side, is the HA side, is the OH sides. And so depending upon which sides are given, your ratio will change, but the method does not. So we'll do one more example of that, and we'll use T as an example here, okay? And so using this sheet directly, okay, there's my starting point, okay? You label H first, and I just like, H dot A, O, and so I'm looking at, okay, so H has got a number, 27, O's got a number, 25, A doesn't have a number, so then who cares about A? I need a formula that has O and H in it. I can refer back to my formula sheet. What's the OH formula? Well, I can use this little thing down here, or OH formula, that's sine. Okay? So then I will do it right here on the sheet. So down here, sine of my whatever angle, I'm looking for an angle, okay, over 1 is equal to the O number, 25, over the H number, 27. Okay, so we'll just make this an X just because I like X. Okay, so I'm going to go 25 divided by 27 times by 1, and that will not be my answer. 25 divided by 27 times by 1, there's my L technique. but that's not the answer because I need to find the angle. So I need to unsign this one. So second function sign, the answer, or I can just scroll up one and hit that, okay? And close that bracket, and the actual answer is 67.8 degrees right there, 67.8 degrees. What else? Okay, so we've got that. So we've got this. Now, we haven't done anything with no angles at all. So let's see what we got here for sheets, in the sheets. Okay, so in the sheets, again, you've done this a long time ago. Here is another example. We'll do question number 4, just because it's nice and simple. Okay, first of all, is it a right angle triangle? Yes, it's got a little square in the corner. Okay, second, so I'm just following this flow chart. Do you have or need any angles? Well, there's no angles given there, except for 90. And they're looking for that side, the third side. So do I have any angles? No. Do I need any angles? No. I'm just looking for all sides. So then use the Pythagoras theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, just think of the sneaky snake side, okay? If you have the slanty side, subtract instead of adding. Okay, so do I have the slanty side as the hypotenuse? Do I have the slanty side? Yes. So then I subtract. Subtract what? Well, you square everything and you subtract. So what this would end up being is 81 squared, subtract, you always start with a big number, 62 squared, and you'll get an answer that is going to be our unknown squared. So we're not done yet. We subtract, but then we have to square root. So we go 81 squared minus 62 squared, hit enter, you get a big number. Now we have to, that's x squared, so x squared is equal to 2717. I don't want x squared, I just want x by itself. So the opposite of squaring is second function. So instead of second function sign, we're going to second function square. And then you type in that previous answer, and you get x backwards here equals 52.12. And so that's what this is here, 52.12. Okay, so on our flow diagram then, what did we do? So we've done, identified the right angle triangles. We've identified SOHCAHTOA. We did a TOA and a SO. The cosine is exactly the same, okay? And we could figure out an angle. We could also figure out a side that way, depending. You just do your L technique at, a different L. And then we now did the Pythagoras theorem. We actually, in class, we started off with the Pythagoras theorem, and we did 1 or 2 sheets of that, and then we switched over to the SOHCAHTOA. Okay? And we figured out sides and then angles. Okay? Right before Christmas, about 2 weeks before Christmas, we went over if it's not a right angle triangle. So we'll try something like that, again, for review. And we will do, let's see here, what about this question right here? Okay, so here's the question. I'm going to rewrite this question. This is off of one of these fun sheets. So I'm going to try to reproduce this question. They call this A, this C, and this B. Now, be careful here. This is where the trick is. So what we're doing here now is is this a right angle triangle? No. So we're going to be doing everything on this side. Okay? So this is 17, this is 22, and this is 42 degrees. There's no 90 degrees in there. Okay? And there's that. There's the triangle. So, are we going to use the sine law or the cosine law? I don't remember this. It doesn't say, and this is how you figure it out from scratch. So there's our triangle. That's fine. Now, they've labeled it. This is their labeling, A, B, C. But they could have just as easily labeled it Z, X, and W, or any other letters. And so you have to be careful. Because they labeled ABC doesn't mean that they're always ABC. We are going to figure out what we want to know by ourselves. And so the question is, kind of ambiguous here because for question number 1, you're looking for angle A. So let's just figure this thing out. So they want to know, I'll put a question mark in there. They wanted to know that. Okay? Now, when it comes to that, what we do is this a right angle triangle? No. Try the sine law. Okay, so they got A over sine A, B over sine B, and C over sine C. So we are just going to do exactly that. And so I'm going to write down, the way you do the sine law is you write down the formula. And this is why it's important to label things properly. Capitals in the corners, small letters on the sides. So this is capital A, this is small letter A. This is capital B, this is small letter B. This is capital C, this is small letter C. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the numbers in the right spot. Okay, so little a goes to 22 on top. Capital sine of A, sine of capital A. I don't know that one, so I'm just going to leave it as A, capital A. Little b is 17 over sine of 42. Okay, I know them both. Okay, and little c is unknown, and capital C is unknown. So basically, this part of the equation, we only need there's 2, 4, 6 items here. We need 3 out of 4. So there's nothing here. So this is kind of useless to us. And the only unknown, so if I get rid of this part of the equation, we have an equals. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of them is unknown. So we have 3 out of 4 with these two. But depending on which numbers are given, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4 there, or you could have 1, 2, 3, 4 there. So you get to kind of pick with these things which ones we're going to use. And matter of fact, for question number 2, they're looking for angle C. So there's different ways of doing this. But for this particular case, we're going to ignore this third column here and just deal with this right here. So there's my window frame. And there's, I'm going to do a little L technique here. Okay. Now, the question is, when I do my technique, is that going to be my final answer? No. That's going to be the sine of A. I'm looking for an angle. And whenever you're looking for angles, to get the angle back out, you need to second function sine, in this case, is sine, second function sine it to unsign it. Because this is sine of A. The answer will be whatever it is. But we need to unsign it at the end. Now, if the x were on top, well, that's just a regular number, so the answer is the answer. So when you do the L technique, that'll be the final answer. So it's only when you're looking for an angle, and the angles are always, sine, you need a bracket in there, that will be the angle. So when you're looking for the angle, you have to unsign it. If you're not, then this is regular. So here we go. We're going to go 22 divided by 17 times sine of 42, or the other way around, because the L is this way, right? The other way around would be sine 42 divided by 17 times 22. So I think it's probably clearer to start with sine of 42. So sine of 42 bracket divided by, first, alphabetical order, A, B, D, times it by 22, and we get 0.865. Now hopefully, 9, whatever. Hopefully when you get an answer like that, some weird decimal answer like that, instead of like 67.5, you'll say, oh, that doesn't sound like an angle. So hopefully that'll kind of cause you to think a little bit before writing that down. So I don't want that as my final answer. I want to go second function, in this case sine, and then I'm going to scroll up there and select that and close that bracket. And so my real answer, capital A, which is the angle I want, is 59.989, which would round to, we want to round to money, so 50, well, actually it's not 60, it'd be 59.99, right? And degrees. So up here, this is 59.99 degrees. Pretty close to 60. Well, if that's 59.99 and this is 42, now question number 2 says, what's angle C? Well, we could, now that we could actually do the sine law all over again. We'd have a little bit harder time though, because we're missing 2 things in this particular column. But we also know that all angles in triangles, whether they're right angle or not, add up to 180 degrees. So the easy way of figuring out C would be to take that and subtract from 180. So I'm going to add 42 to this, and then I'm going to subtract 180 and get 78.9 1.01 degrees for that, for C. So now I got angle C, angle A, angle B, all three angles. I got 1, 2 sides. I don't have that side yet. And guess what we're going to look for question 3, side C. Okay, so side C. Now, here's another thing. We didn't really use trig. Oh, we did, because trig is all about triangles. One of the neat things about triangles is that all angles add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so you're using a little bit of logic there. You're not using sine, cosine, or tan to figure that out. You're just using logic that everything adds up to 180 degrees to figure that angle out. Well, let's take a look at question number 3. Question number 3, so angle A here, if you get an answer for A to be 182 degrees, I'm hoping a little bit of logic will say, well, wait a second, that's not possible. Even if you get an angle of 160 degrees, not possible for a triangle because the angle's too big, okay? Well, 160 would work, but anything over 180, if the total angle is 180 degrees, if you get an answer that's more than 180 degrees, you know you did something wrong, or that's not an angle. Well, same thing for side C. This is multiple guess. So we know that 78 is an answer because we figured that out. We know that 60 is an answer because we figured that out. So those are A and O are not going to be the answer for side C. So we have 2 different possibilities here. So when it comes down to tests or quizzes, yes, you need to figure out the math, but you can also help yourself. This is like a test taking strategy. You can eliminate those 2 possibilities. You know your question 3 is going to be U or L. Let's just take a look here without doing math and see if we can be a little bit more logical. Okay? There is a unique pairing here. Okay? So let's take a look here. I'm going to put this in here as 60 because it's pretty close to 60. Okay? 60 goes with 22 and 42 goes with 17. Let's take a look here. 42 and 60, of the 2 angles here, this one's the lower one. And of the 2 numbers here, this is the lower one. Lower angle, lower distance. Higher angle, higher distance. What else do we know? Well, we also know that angle C is 78. Okay, so 42 is to 17. So low to low, medium to medium, high to, we know this answer by logic, not by math, really anything at all. This is going to be 78. It has to be bigger than 22 or 17. Okay, well, these things are both bigger than 22 or 17. Okay, well, in this case, it didn't particularly work. But if one of these answers was 13, you could know immediately without doing math, that has to be the answer, without even figuring it out. In this particular case, we can still do a little bit of answer and give you a little bit of an edge. We'll actually figure it out, but take a look here. 42 is to 17, 60 is to 22, 78 is to something else. Okay, so we're going from 17 to 22. That's quite a jump. That's five unit jump, and going from 42 to 60. That's quite a 18 unit degree jump. 78 is another 18 unit degree jump. Okay, so we're going to be jumping from 22. Probably, if I were to make a guess, it's going to be jumping more than 1.25. It's probably going to be jumping 2 point something. So I would guess it's U, but let's actually figure it out. Okay. So how do you figure it out? Well, sine law again. And we've already got them half figured out, half filled in here. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to fill in the C value. The C value down here is, this is 78 degrees. So I'm just going to copy that down here. I'm going to use this. 17 over sine of 42. That's the middle column. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the first column. And it's equal to C over sine of 78 degrees. There's my L. Get rid of that equals. There's my L right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 17 divided by this times by that. And the answer will be my final answer, because this is not an angle. I've dealt with the angles. This is just a regular number. Here we go. Clear? 17 divided by sine of 42 times sine of 78. And we get 24.85, which, look at that, 24.84. So we were right with the guess. Okay, just a little bit of logic. This one was, well, actually, I made these questions up, so I made it a little bit tricky on purpose. But oftentimes for tests or quizzes, it'll be really obvious. Like I said, this will be 13, this will be 24. Well, this can't be 13 because the big angle it should go with the big number, and the small angle, small number. Well, the smallest angle is 42, so that should be anything less than 17. Okay, and you know it's going to be bigger than 22. So these two questions, again, they're both over 22, but in some cases you can use a little bit of elimination, and this applies to English, it applies to math, chemistry, biology, whatever else. You can eliminate a lot of the multiple choice questions just by using a little bit of logic. Well, that doesn't make sense, okay? And sometimes, even if you don't know anything about the question, like nothing about the subject matter, sometimes the way that the person writes the question, you know that it's between one or two answers. Because if they say opposites, chances are then one of those opposites is the correct answer. So you can eliminate, if you've got 5 choices, you can eliminate 3 of them right off the bat because 2 of them are exactly opposite one another. And so, again, we'll probably do a few more examples of that closer to the exam, just to show you how to do test-taking strategies. There we are. That's this whole sheet is all about sine law. And that was kind of a summary on how to do that. So we did 3 questions on the sine law. We used the sine law twice, and then we used the fact that all triangles have 180 degrees once. And so what do we do here? It's kind of a summary again. Okay? So we got right angle triangles, SOHCAHTOA. We did the sides only. We did the angles and sides. We did the sine law. Now let's try and do the cosine law. That's the last thing we did right before Christmas. And we'll try something there. What do we got here? There's a mini assignment. Okay, that's some of us we're doing. It's all mixed up. And there's another trig assignment. Do I have a cosine law question? Oh, this will probably be one of these things will be a cosine law question. Now which one? Okay, I think we're going to try to do B. Here we go. Now, how do you know if it's a cosine law question or not? You don't. That's the whole point. And that's why we have this flow diagram, is because you don't know if it's going to be cosine law or not. Now, after doing a couple hundred of these things, you can probably take a look pretty quick. Oh, that's cosine law right away. And so that's what we're gonna try to figure out a pattern, and whether you remember that pattern or not. The flow chart will help you, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do question number C on the mini assignment. Okay, so there's the triangle that we're going to be doing. And I'm going to hope that it's cosine law. Let's follow through. So here's the question. We're looking for X, which is an angle, okay? Now, this triangle is unlabeled, so the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to label it, but let's go through the flow diagram here. Is it a right angle triangle? Look at that. No. Because there's no square, no square, no square. Do you have or need any angles? Yes or no? Sorry, it's over here. We're not even doing that. It's no. So try the sine law. Okay, try the sine law. So this is my X down here. Now, what I'm going to say is when you are able to, when it's not the, not a right angle triangle, and you're in the process of labeling things, it might already be labeled with the ABCs, but I'm going to say you need to relabel that triangle. So we didn't do that before, but I'm going to say you should do that now. You should relabel your triangle to the way that you want it, and the way that we want it all the time is if you have an unknown side or angle, that unknown, just label it C. It'll make things a lot easier later on, especially when it comes to the cosine law. And so since I suspect this one might be cosine law, we're going to label that C. So this is angle C, this is little c. And so A and B don't really matter, so I'll put A and B. This would be little a, opposite, and this would be little b, opposite. And so now that that is labeled properly, I'm going to try the sine law. Now the sine law, we just did that. Sine A over A, B over sine of B, and C over sine of capital C. And I'm just going to fill in my numbers. Little a is 16 over sine of big A, which I don't know. Okay, so that's not going to help. Hey, good morning, Charlie.
Hi, sorry, Jeff. I'm not very good at waking up.
It's okay. I'm recording this, so.
Sweet.
I think everybody else is over on the live stream, which is at, where's that little thing? ahs.ca/live stream.
Thank you.
So you can chat over there, although I won't be able to see the chat because actually no one's chatting. I can't see it from way over there, but I can't respond to it.
Okay.
But yeah, we are live streaming. So here we are. So I'm just filling in the triangle here. So I got I got A over A. I got little b, which is 14, over sine of b, which I don't know again. That's not going to be helpful. Okay? And then little c, which is 9. I do have that one. Again, over, oh, crap, sine of capital C. That's a 9, not an A. So if you recall for the sine law, I need 3 out of 4. So if I, here I've got 2 out of 4. Here I've got the tops, not the bottoms, 2 out of 4. And here I got 2 out of 4. It's not really helpful to have 2 out of 4. We can't do anything with 2 out of 4. So the sine law doesn't work. And that's why the flow diagram here is just try the sine law. Does it work? Well, in this case, no. All right, well, it's not the sine law. So it's cosine law. So the cosine law, that's what we're learning here today, says, okay, are we looking for an angle or are we looking for a side? And here's the cosine law out in full, okay, but that's for a side. So the top part here, okay, need to solve, well here, it's actually, I split it down here. This is the cosine law in general, but it's either a side or an angle. And so we need to find an angle, so we're going to use this formula right here. So what do? Just like we did with the sine law, I'm going to copy down that formula. I'm going to do it over here to the side though. Be cosine of capital C is equal to all this stuff, c squared minus a squared minus b squared, all over negative 2ab. Okay, now all these little letters here, okay, whenever you put a letter in the calculator, it'll be useful to put those letters themselves in brackets. So there's going to be a ton of brackets in here. So, and what we're going to do at the end, once we've figured all this stuff out, we're not going to get the final answer yet because this is going to be cosine of C. And so, again, if you need to find an angle, you're going to have to second function that angle to get it back out. Okay? So this one here, we're going to have to second function it. Here, if you're looking for the angle, you have to second function it. Here, if you're looking for the here you're looking for the bottom, you have to second function it to get the actual capital letters out. Okay, so here we're looking for the C part, and so we're gonna figure it all out first, and then we're gonna have to second function it to get that angle back out. But first things first, let's actually figure out the bit. Okay, so there's the formula. I'm gonna write down. Now, you don't really have to write it down because the calculator does a pretty good job of it, but I'm going to write it down to show you what I'm going to punch in the calculator. I'm going to write down equals, and then on the top is C. So I'll do this in red. The C number is 9. So I'm going to put 9 in brackets. So that was replacing C, and then it was squared. And then I'm going to subtract, and then in brackets I'm going to put the A. What's the A number? A number is 16, and that's squared. And then I got to subtract, okay? And then in the B, there's the B, okay? And it's going to be squared. The B number is 14. And then I'm going to close that bracket. So there's a lot of brackets going on here, but all we're doing is we're putting the letters in brackets. So instead of the letter C, I'm going to put whatever C is in brackets. And that'll make things easier visually. Mine is 2, okay? And then, again, I'm gonna have some more brackets. There's my A bracket, there's my B bracket, and then I'm gonna close that off there again. And the A number is 16, and the B number is 14. After you do a couple hundred of these things, you'll always realize if you do it, this is always going to be AB, and that's going to be the bottom. So 16, 14, 16, 14. Okay, it becomes a little bit of a pattern. You have to do quite a few of them, but just copy it down for right now. That is not going to be your final answer. That's going to be equal to cosine C. But let's figure what that is on the calculator. So how do you do on the calculator? Now, we haven't used these calculators for a while, so it's a fraction. So we're going to use alpha y equals, clear, alpha y equals, enter. Okay, top with top, bottom with bottom. First thing, bracket, bracket. 9 bracket squared minus bracket 16 bracket squared. Whew. Minus bracket 14 bracket squared. Close the bracket. Bottom, bracket, -2 bracket. Okay, so exactly as it is, all we're doing is replacing letters with bracketed numbers. So we get all this type of stuff, and then we get an answer. Now, because my answer is in fraction mode, it tells me the answer is a fraction, which is interesting. It's 53 over 64. That's okay. Okay, normally we get a decimal, some weird decimal. This one just happens to simplify. It's just kind of weird. Okay, that's not our final answer though, because we want C. We want the angle. So this is, they're saying this is cosine of C. We don't want that. We want to second function cosine the answer now. So same thing, second function cosine. Whether it's a fraction or not, whether it's a fraction or decimal, doesn't really matter. I'm going to go up there and highlight that, close that bracket, and there's my final answer. That is capital C. 34.09 degrees. Now I'm going to write that down. That's equal to angle C. And then I'm going to go back here and just take a look. And see 34.09 degrees. Okay, so let's take a look here. Oh, sorry, move this up. 34 degrees, that's a pretty small angle, okay? 9. 16, that'd be bigger, okay? And 14, bigger as well. So if you were to actually measure, if you were to actually say which of these angles is the smallest, closest together, and which is the biggest, this one's the biggest, goes with the biggest number. This one's the medium one, goes with the medium number. This is the small one, goes with the small number. So you know that angle A and angle B, okay, angle A is the biggest number, so it has to be bigger than 34. So it could be 50 or I don't know what it is, 50. Okay, well, you know it's going to be more than, actually, A is going to be more than 90, right? Because 90 is that. So A is bigger than 90, and B is somewhere between 34 and 90. Okay, so that doesn't really help us at all. That's just the logic part of it. All we were looking for is the answer 34.09. And that was it. Okay, we could have done the same thing for angle B or the same thing for angle C. So that's the cosine law, and that's looking for angles. Let's see what we can find here for another cosine law. I don't know if I have another one in the sheets. I don't think I have one here. Oh, here we go. All right, so this is from way back when. Actually, is that the same question we just did? No. All right, so here's one more example of the cosine law. So then we'll have done an example of all the different types of things. Okay, we'll do this question. And again, we'll start from scratch, pretend we don't know anything. And oh, here's the flow chart. So here's our triangle. It's unlabeled. Question number A, it's unlabeled. Okay, is it a right angle triangle? Nope, there's no little squares in the corner. So no. Try the sine law. So we're going to try the sine law. So I'm going to grab a piece of paper here, try the sine law. Now, considering the fact that this is on the cosine law worksheet, you know it's not going to work. But why is it not going to work? Because in order for it to work, you need two sides with two corresponding angles, or the other way around, two angles with two corresponding sides. We have a side and an angle that go together, but we don't have any other angles. So we only have one angle here, so we need another angle. So if we had this angle, then we'd be able to work it, or this angle, we'd be able to work it. So first of all, labeling a triangle, whenever you want to label something, and it's not a right angle triangle, label it so that the unknown is C. So this X, they call it X, so technically this would be capital X, but we want to label it C because we are labeling it, not the question. We're taking over here. So this is going to be A, so that'd be capital A, and this would be B, and that'd be capital B. It doesn't really matter the A and B, but the unknown should be C. Okay, so then this will be little c over sine of 42 for sine law. Okay, so it'll be x over sine of 42. I'm trying the sine law. That's the last one. Is equal to 22 over sine of b is equal to 17 over sine of a. And you notice that there's not, I've got one thing in each column, which isn't good. I need at least something with two things in it to be able to solve with the sine law. So the sine law doesn't work. So here we are. Is it a right angle triangle? No. Try the sine law. Well, we did, and we don't have enough information. We need 3 out of 4 things, and we don't have enough information for that. So then the cosine law it is. Cosine law, again, off a formula sheet. And again, if you don't have this formula sheet, I've included it in that little package. So January bahs.ca/ today's January 11th, .1. That's all the sheets that I've gone through today, with the exception of this one. I don't think this one's on there, the cosine law worksheet. But all the other ones are there. And there's 2 assignments, and there's a bunch of fun sheets so you can practice with those things. There's that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try the cosine law. Now, we need to find a side. So down here, cosine law, try the cosine law. There's the cosine law, but it's split up into angles. So you can actually write this thing in if you want, angles. And don't forget the second function. Okay, or sides. And so we want a side, I'm going to write that down. So we want the side thing, so I'm going to write c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine capital C. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have figured this thing out yet, but this is very similar to the formula over here, which is called the Pythagoras theorem. And as a matter of fact, that's where it came from. Okay, it's just that Pythagoras theorem. If you work out on the Pythagoras theorem, cosine C times negative 2ab, you end up equal 0, right? Because cosine C of a 90-degree angle is 0. It just works. It wipes it out. Anyways, we've already labeled our triangle, so all we're going to do is we're going to say c squared. So we're not going to end up with the final answer. Okay, we're going to have to unsquare at the end because we're looking for c, not c squared. But let's just, whenever you see a letter here, we're going to substitute with brackets, square it, and then b will go in there, brackets, minus 2, a is going to go in there, and b is going to go in there, and then cosine, and then c is going to go over here. I left too much space there, but you get the idea. What's my a value? So filling in the numbers, a value is 17, 17 squared. B value is 22 squared minus 1722. And cosine of, what are we looking at? Cosine of the angle, 42. and then it'd be degrees, of course. And that's equal to c squared. We don't want c squared, we just want c, so we're going to have to unsquare that. But before we do that, we're going to type that into the calculator. Let the calculator do all the hard stuff. So here's how I'm going to type it in, exactly as written, brackets included. Now, I don't need the equals, of course, but 17 squared plus bracket 22 squared minus 2 bracket 17 bracket 22 bracket cosine. And it opened my bracket for me already, 42 degrees, close that. And that's a subtraction sign, not a negative. And I get an answer of 217.127. That's point, but that's not the right answer. So, because I want c, not c squared. So how do you get rid of a square? You go second function square, and then you scroll up, you highlight that. And the real answer is 14.74, rounding it to money, that's equal to c. The c value is 14.74. So over here, this is 14.74. Okay, now, again, using the same logic we did from the previous couple classes, 42 is 14, so comparing these three numbers, 14, 17, and 22, okay? 14 is 42, 17 is something, and 22 is something. You know that this number and this number are going to be bigger than 42. How do I know that? Well, the 22, whatever this answer is going to be the largest of the three numbers, because that's the longest side, that's the largest angle, the opposite angle. So whatever that angle is, it's bigger than 42. So if you end up with an answer of 32, you did it wrong. Okay? So the 14 is 42, 17, okay, is going to be bigger than 14, so 17 is bigger than 14. So the angle here is going to be bigger than 42. It'd be like 48 or 50 or something like that. And then this one here will be bigger than that one and that one. So just a little bit like, I don't know what they are, but when you can kind of get a ballpark of knowing what it's going to be like, especially if you get two of them together. So if you end up with the, let's say you end up with the 22 and the 14, okay? So you know that 17 is going to be somewhere between those two answers. So you get a little bit of a range there, and you know, okay, that's about right. So it's always a good idea just to do a double check there to make sure that, same thing with when you check your gas receipts here, right? You want to make sure that you didn't spend, $170 instead of $17 on something, right? A decimal place makes a little bit of difference. And presumably you would know that if you did that with your groceries, right? Because you would double check that. But that's why they offer you the receipts. Same thing here. You can make sure you double check, get the right answer. All right, so I think that's for the review there. Now, when it comes down to the final exam, how are we going to be doing this? Well, the big thing on the final exam, we are going to be doing Trig, but it's not going to be really, really hard Trig. We haven't had enough time to be able to do that. We're supposed to have started back on the January the 4th, and we're already here on the 10th. We got 2 days of online, which this is kind of teaching blind here. I'm not being real helpful, and I'm just spewing knowledge. That doesn't work for learning in my mind. You have to be able to do this stuff. And so what will, for the final exam, there will be some trig questions. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be grabbing probably about, it'd be very similar to, well, kind of like this assignment here, where, where's that other assignment? There's two assignments. Here, this is the other assignment. It'd be very similar to, well, actually, this whole page. Okay, so this is the Trig mini assignment. It's part of that little thing. Essentially, I have a number of triangles on a page. And I've got one SOHCAHTOA, I got one Pythagoras, I got one sine law figuring out the side, I got one sine law figuring out the angle, got one cosine figuring out the side, one cosine figuring out the angle, one sine, one cosine, one tan. I think there's ended up being 12 questions, all triangles on a single page. And so basically, you're going to have to know how to do one question for each type to be able to figure out, that'll be the trig unit. So if you're comfortable with doing that, I still want you to kind of go through all the assignments, hand those things in, and everything else. But in terms of studying for the final exam, how much is going to be on there? I would say maybe 1 page with one example of each triangle on that page. So, and I think that's, if I recall correctly, I haven't looked at it for a year, but if I recall correctly, it is a single page split up in like a table, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think there's like 12 questions on it, one question type from each section. So as long as you know more or less how to do, as long as you know how to go through this flow chart, okay, there's one sine, cosine, one tan, okay, there's 3 questions there for finding the angles, 3 questions finding the sides, there's 1 question finding a side hypotenuse where you add, and 1 where you subtract Pythagoras. There's 1 question here where you're finding the angle A, and another question where you're finding the side B, something like that. There's 1 question where you're looking for angle C down here, 1 question where you're solving for side C down here. So if you add up all those questions, you're looking at about 12 different types of trig questions, and 1 page. So it'll be worth, 12 times 3 marks each, 36 marks out of the final exam. I think it'll be, if you know what you're doing, if you've done all the sheets, you'll have no problems with this. We're going to be spending a little bit more time next class, which will be on, today's Tuesday, on Thursday, reviewing, we have to do quadratics. That's going to be the big review. And I'm thinking I'm going to save that till next week when you're back here in person doing the quadratics. But we'll do a little bit of algebra and some other miscellaneous stuff there on Thursday. Again, kind of a review. What else? I've been talking lots. There's lots of work there. Some of you have already got it done. I'm going to basically stop our live stream now, I think, and give you guys a chance to work away. And I'll leave the Zoom link open. I think you all know where the Zoom link is by now, whether you're on the live stream or whether you're here. But if you have any questions, you can chat with me here on Zoom. I'm going to be working on a little bit of chemistry and a little bit of marking while you guys are working. But if you have any questions, let me know. And if not, the plan is right now for this week to be on here via Zoom like this. But next week we'll be back in class, as far as I know. They have a habit of not telling us to the last second, so chances are you'll probably know before I do. But just listen to the news. I don't know when the next press release is either, but from what I understand, we're going to be back in class next week. I think that's all. I'm gonna stop there. Again, if you have any questions, you let me know. You can contact me here at my Zoom. But I think I'm gonna sign off here on the live stream here. I'll keep my Zoom channel open, and then go from there. Okay. So if there's any questions, let me know. But I'm gonna go over there and just turn off the live stream.